Hi everybody, welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. My name is Jared. In this video, the Earth is spinning so fast we might have to turn back the clock. Also, Mars keeps spinning faster and scientists don't know why. Also, Israel will attack every meter of Lebanon in self-defense from the defense minister. And several other stories, some of them having to do with capital cities. If you've been watching the channel for a little bit, you know that I've been keeping track of capital cities, whether they be of nations, states, provinces, territories. If a natural disaster or some disaster, it doesn't have to be a natural disaster. If a disaster happens in a capital city, I find that significant because it's a likely method that the Lord would use to warn the people of that nation, state, province, or territory. So before we get into all of this, and there are, I don't know, something like 5 or 6 different things to look at, different stories. As always, I want to give you the update on the Flood the Earth Challenge. 6,240 copies of the Book of Mormon that have been shared so far. If you watched not the last video, but the video before that, you know that we've had 2 new baptisms, which brings us to 21. And then along with that, uh, one person hadn't reported the missionaries reporting. So the missionaries and the baptism came at the same time in the same reporting. Whereas the other one, there's a brand new report of somebody meeting with the missionaries, which brings us to 60. So keep up the good work, everybody. You know, do what you can. Use the Gospel Library app. It makes it easy to share the Book of Mormon with the share button under Scriptures. And let's just see if we can get to 10,000. That's ultimately the goal. And then the channel goal for everybody is try to at least get to 10 shares of the Book of Mormon. Okay, so this is the news today. I'm recording this on the 8th. I'm going to post it in the morning tomorrow. Israel will attack every meter of Lebanon in self-defense. Defense Minister Yoav Gallant warned they won't hesitate to attack Hezbollah and return Lebanon to the Stone Age should Israel be attacked. And that's pretty much all you have to know about this story. uh, from what I've seen, just to kind of give you some of the background, recently Hezbollah has set up some tents, or at least one tent, on Israeli territory. There's probably more to it than that, but I guess they're being provocative. So there's potential for war to break out. Is it going to happen? I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. But this is what happened today. Okay, next. Got an email from Brian Gross, or Gross, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, pointing out 2 stories. The one talking about Earth spinning faster, and then Mars also rotating faster. All right. He leaves a scripture here, Matthew 24:22, King James Version, and except those days should be, and it cuts off, but shortened. Oh, here it is. And except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. For the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. And, when it comes to prophecy, I feel like we never really can know exactly how it's going to play out. So maybe this is part of it. I do think that I go with what Elder Maxwell said, Neely Maxwell, when he said that in the last days there'd be like a compression of events. But uh, like what we're witnessing here with the Earth and Mars, maybe there is a literal component to that as well, with these planets rotating quicker. Now, this first one, I already did a video about this. June 28th is when we were talking about the Earth rotating faster. In fact, if we go to my Second Coming timeline, it's right here. Let me zoom in. So they don't have like an exact date when it started spinning faster, but 2016 sometime is when they noticed that it began to spin faster. And it was, let's see, Control F, shortest. And then it was in 2022. on June 29th, 2022, that the shortest rotation of the Earth was recorded. 1.59 milliseconds under 24 hours. And actually, come to think of it, in the video, this was what my video was about, just this day where this record was broken. But I didn't know, or at least I forgot, that this has been an ongoing event since 2016. So that's kind of interesting in my mind, just because there's so many different things that seem to be taking place and coming to life around this like 4 to 5 year window around the transition from President Monson to President Nelson. If you'll remember, President Nelson became president of the church in January of 2018. So this started happening 2 years before he became president of the church, and during the last 2 years of President Monson's time as president of the church. It's just interesting timing, and you can see I've decided to include it in column L, where you have these columns here where I keep track of like ongoing events, so it's easier to visualize just how long something has been going on for. For example, the Afghanistan war. Of course, we're looking back at 2016, so that's why the Afghanistan war is there. The Syrian civil war, HIV/AIDS epidemic, and now the Earth rotating faster. And then after that, we have the Messianic Jewish movement. And then columns N, O, and P I have for different periods or ages, in this case, the information age. Okay, so let's look at the article really quick. This one is from Futurism. Okay. It says, as CBS News reports, June 29th was the fastest day in recorded history, clocking in at 1.59 milliseconds shorter than the average 24 hours we know and love. According to a recent study, the Earth started to spin faster back in 2016. And on average, the days have become shorter ever since. You know what? I didn't notice that there was a link here, so I might have to like look at this later and see if they have an exact date that they observed uh, the quickening rotation. All right, anyway, I'm going to just pull that up for future reference after I'm done with this video. The rotation change hasn't been enough to render every single day shorter, according to the study's authors, but the impact has been pronounced enough to get the scientific community buzzing. And if the trend continues, which it very well might, mankind will likely have to make some changes to atomic time or the universal way that time on Earth is measured, according to experts. Historically speaking, Earth has never kept perfect time. A number of factors, from its magma core to ocean tides, can impact how fast the Earth spins. And as The Guardian points out, our planet has actually spun a bit slower in recent centuries than it has in the distant past. So I guess there was kind of like a slowdown. I don't know how they measure these things or how they know for centuries past, but I'll take their word for it. Though there are some different theories floating around, the study co-authors told CBS that they believe changes in ocean tides are likely to blame for the recent rotation change. Okay, so that's basically all that I have for this story. But this right here, I think that this is the new bit of information, that this has been happening since 2016. Otherwise, I probably would have put it on the Second Coming timeline as an ongoing event in column L. So, very odd. But what's even stranger is that Mars. Now, this is a recent article. This is dated today, the day that I'm recording this, the 8th. Mars keeps spinning faster, and scientists don't know why. Recordings of the interior of Mars have just delivered the most precise measurement of the red planet's spin yet, and the results are a confusing surprise. According to data from the now retired InSight lander, Mars and the lander. Okay, so it was like a let me pull it up. InSight rover. It was like a rover that I wasn't. Well, no, is it a rover? No, it's just a lander. Doesn't look like it has treads or anything. I have no idea. Whenever I think about Mars and exploring Mars, it's just like yawn. Uh, I know it's kind of exciting. Maybe you're excited about it, but I don't really care that much. I think it's important. It's important scientific work that they're doing. Anyway, so it was this lander uh, that they used to determine this. Recordings of the interior of Mars. Oops. Okay. According to data from the now retired InSight lander, Mars rotation is accelerating each year around 4 milliarc seconds. Milliarc seconds. There's a very small amount, shortening the length of a Mars day by just a fraction of a millisecond every Martian year. But the reason for it is not immediately apparent. InSight ran out of power and was retired in December 2022. So that's when the mission ended. It went for 4 years. Uh, in fact, I think this has the dates here. It went from entered service on the 26th of November 2018, the first year of President Nelson's presidency, and then ended December of 2022. So those 4 years. Okay, so the data that they're looking at is from that period, if I'm understanding this article correctly. So it's not like they're like, I'm not so sure that they have anything there right now where they're able to like tell what it's doing now. So their data goes from 2018 to 2022. So who knows if it's still going faster? That's all I mean to say. Signals bounced between the two as Earth and Mars moved around and rotated, allowing scientists to search for subtle variations in the frequency of the radio waves that allowed them to precisely measure the rotation of Mars. If that's the case, aren't there still some rovers that are active on Mars? Like, couldn't you do the same thing with those, or is it like different instruments? I don't know. Based on 900 Martian days of InSight communications with Earth, the team found the tiny acceleration. This is likely due to the redistribution of Mars' mass somehow. Here on Earth, the opposite is taking place. Well, not based on what we just read. And it's not just futurism that, talks about this. There's other articles that talk about the Earth speeding up. So maybe this is referring to before it started speeding up in 2016. So here on Earth, the opposite is taking place. Long-term trends show that Earth's rotation is slowing down due to a braking effect applied by the moon, which redistributes Earth's mass by tugging at the oceans. So I guess they would view the 2016 to current speed up as a smaller part of what is already a long-term trend of the Earth slowing down. I don't know. Okay, Mars doesn't have oceans. Something else must be taking place. Scientists will need to undertake a deeper analysis to determine the most likely cause of the acceleration. So they don't know. But it would seem that Earth and Mars at the same time are both speeding up. Very strange. Very, very strange. It makes me think of, let's see, crystal? No. Star? There was a video that I did a while ago where there was a star. Let me see if I can find it. No, I probably don't have it on here. Dwarf star crystallization with 2 L's. A while ago, we looked at this story from Science Alert. White dwarf star enters its crystallization era, turning into a cosmic diamond. Somebody had sent me this article, and I thought that this was interesting because in the email, the person was like, "Oh, is it a world that's turning to a sea of glass?" Because we know that that's Earth's destiny, that it's going to be like a sea of glass. It's going to become once it's celestialized. So, and we've read statements. I'm not going to read them here now, but we've read statements from both Brigham Young, Joseph Fielding Smith, how the destiny of Earth, when it becomes a celestial sphere, is to be like the sun, to shine. And I think literally, potentially. And if that's correct, that means that our understanding of astronomy is wrong or it's incomplete, which I wouldn't doubt at all. I think that astronomers and scientists are doing the best that they can, and I'm sure they have really good observations and theories and stuff like that. But ultimately, they don't really know. Uh, for one, it's hard to know certain things unless you have a time machine. You can only uh, get to like theories. Um, there are limitations to science, and if you watch any number of science articles, or if you watch or read or watch any number of science articles or documentaries, uh, inevitably you'll come across the subject of time. And what I wondered here is, now this is going to get a little crazy, okay? Just stick with me. So let me pull up my tool here to draw. Okay. So imagine that this is the presence of God. Now, this is not what I'm about to say is not doctrine. This is just my own musings, and I don't even think. I mean, I don't even necessarily believe this, but I think it could be a possibility. Um, I think time has a lot to do with the plan of salvation. We come here, we're given a certain amount of time to be tested and decide which way we want to go after mortality, right? But time. And in some kind of way, the Lord, when he performed the atonement, it covers not only people that were born after Christ or people living or born after Christ, but it actually goes back in time. It goes back in some kind of way that we don't understand. Likewise, there are scriptures that talk about the fact that all time is before God, like the beginning and the end, it's all before him, as though it's just one eternal now, essentially. So there's a lot of questions that I have about time. But when we think about the vision that Ezekiel had, you remember that he was at the temple. So like here's okay, here's the temple. Okay, let's just say this. Just say this is the temple. All right. And there was a river that flowed out from the, if I remember right, I think from the south side, and then it went east to the Dead Sea, right, and healed it. And from the temple, this river got deeper and deeper and wider, you know, until it reached the Dead Sea, and then it healed it. And I've always thought that there might be multiple layers to that vision. So the one obvious layer is that the temple is what heals things. Like it's ultimately Christ's atonement, but by getting on the covenant path, going to the temple, making covenants, that's what we do in order to achieve exaltation, right? So it's like the blessings of the temple flow, and then they heal a body of water that's dead. Nothing can live here, and this is just like the earth. E for earth. So the Dead Sea is like Earth. Everybody's spiritually dead. Even if you've made just one, if you've committed sin just once, then you're spiritually dead and you have a problem. And like fish, uh, now this isn't like a perfect metaphor, but like this is a path that flows one way, and it goes this way. It doesn't go upstream. It goes down to the Dead Sea. So if you're a fish, yeah, you could probably, I mean, in reality, you could probably swim back upstream. But let's just say that you can't. Let's say that you come down here from the presence of God in the pre-existence, you come down to earth, and then uh, you end up here, okay? And you're spiritually dead. Well, that's where Christ's atonement comes in. If you enter the covenant path and you repent and you endure to the end, then he can fix that and bring you back to the presence of God. Okay? You following me? And I've wondered, and this isn't doctrine, or at least not that I know of, but I wonder if since Christ is able to essentially somehow fix things back in time, I wonder if there's a way that he essentially edits our lives going back and he makes us perfect, but it's through our own agency, our agency to repent. We repent, he accepts it, he goes back, he edits our timeline in some kind of way. It may or may not be like that. I'm just thinking out loud. Okay. I'm not saying that this is gospel, but along these lines, I wonder if this is the presence of God where God dwells, he creates things, and I wonder if they kind of literally leave his presence. So say like the earth leaves his presence. So let's say that this is the earth. Okay. And unless something is done, it's just going to continue going this way forever and ever, ever, continuing with the flow of time. But the earth itself, following the same type of path that we are individually as human beings, it's going to become celestialized. So let's just say celestialized, like this will represent like a shining world like the sun. Sorry, that's not the best. And then in some kind of way, kind of like brought back possibly to the presence of the Father. Okay. So what I wonder, and then of course, in this kind of scenario, you have, Satan and his followers that were cast out, right? And it may be that they just continue to go forward forever into time, into outer darkness. Whereas we, not saying that we like travel back in time, like we like a VCR, like rewinding, like woo 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 woo, not like that, but we come to where the Father is in a place where you're above time. You're like brought back. It's just like when you're in the temple and there's a progression. You progress, and then you progress, and then you end up in the Holy of Holies, right? And then once you're there, your traveling stops. It's now like you're over the entire temple, essentially, so to speak. You understand? It's like you reach the center. It's like you reach that point that's above time. Whereas Satan is just destined to continue to go on forever in time and has no way to go back upstream. Just continually and forever going this way. So, what I wonder is if this is maybe the life cycle of a world. It starts out here in the presence of God. It goes to some place like where we're at right now, right? It experiences a fall. It enters a telestial condition, and then later, after the millennium, it becomes a celestial world, like I had drawn before. Celestial world. And just like us, I wonder if it maybe in this case physically goes back somewhere that's closer or somehow in the presence of God. Now, we know that time where God resides, it passes slower than it does here on earth. All we know is that a day where God resides equals 1,000 years on earth. So, like, the ratio is 1 to 1,000, 1 day to 1,000. Okay. I don't know if that means that if somehow you had a real time feed between the two worlds, like say that you have a monitor here and then you have a camera here. Let's make that a film camera. I don't know if that means like when you're on Earth looking at the presence of God in real time, if to us it appears like they're going in slow motion, and if likewise from there looking here, it looks like we're going fast because a day goes by on Kolob, and 1,000 years goes by here. So I don't know if that's how it actually is, but I wouldn't be surprised if it is. And so what I wonder is this world right here that just became it's entered its crystallization era. I can't help but to wonder if maybe that's what's going to happen to Earth. It's going to become a sea of glass. It's going to ignite. It's going to become like a star. Um, and then eventually it'll become like a regular star. Because what I wonder is that, like, once you get to this point, if this star starts going back in time. So, in our point of view, okay, I had to pull this up. This is on sciencefacts.net. So, from our point of view, moving quote unquote forward in time, this is how we view stars evolve. First, it's a giant gas cloud nebula, and then a protostar, and then T-Tauri phase, and then we'll just take this branch right here because this goes to dwarf stars. Then a low and medium mass stars like the sun, and then after that, a red giant, and then after that, a planetary nebula, and then after that, white dwarf star, and then black dwarf star. Okay, from our point of view, going forward in time. But what if what actually happens is you have a world that, and this is according to science, and this is all based on theory. I'm sure it's based on really good, data, information, observation, so on and so forth. But what if some of this is wrong? Let's just pretend that this isn't exactly right. So I'm going to propose an alternative. What if when a world completes its mortality, it becomes a celestial world, and as it goes back to the presence of the Father, what if it goes from an opaque world, like Brigham Young said, right now everything's opaque in this condition, this telestial condition, and then after that it becomes not opaque, it becomes bright. And using the word opaque, I guess he means it becomes more transparent, translucent, I don't know, more light like. So you go from you go from becoming a celestial world, okay, becoming a dwarf star, so to speak. You go through a crystallization phase like this, where it becomes a sea of glass. Oops. And then things just get brighter and brighter. And who knows, maybe this isn't even part of the cycle. Maybe scientists just think that this is what they're seeing, as part of their theory. But what if it goes just brighter and brighter and brighter, and then it becomes like the sun, and then like that, and then back into the presence of the Father. And so when we think about the Big Bang, for example, they feel that everything is going outward from a central point where the Big Bang occurred. What if they're a little bit right? But what's actually happening is you have a bunch of worlds that are going back after having completed their mortality and achieving a celestial glory. They're actually traveling back into the presence of the Father. So us going forward in time, it looks like everything is like taking this route, but we're unaware that there's a U-turn, and then they start to go back like that from everywhere, wherever these planets are, So Big Bang could be real in a sense that maybe that's where everything comes from. It comes out here, it gets ejected out of the presence of God to experience mortality, and then it goes back. And so that would mean that our world, currently opaque and in a telestial condition, we have a sun that oversees us. Let's say that this is the sun. So this is the sun, this is the earth. From our point of view, the sun is going along with us, it's going down the river of time like this, but maybe if you're on the sun and it is a celestial world, maybe it has already completed its mortality and it's going this way. Which seems like a paradox because it's like we're going this way, but the sun is going that way. It could be. Brigham Young talked about inhabitants on the sun, and I don't think that he meant aliens. I think he was probably referring to spiritual beings. And you might be like, well, that's not possible because the Savior hadn't, the Savior, the sun has been around since the earth began, right? So the Savior hadn't performed the atonement yet. Well, maybe the way that time actually works, maybe in some kind of way there's twisting and turning where that actually is the case. You know? So it's all just very weird, but I don't know. This is fun. This is probably just nonsense, but anyway, that's just kind of what I was thinking about. And so as we see Earth and Mars starting to rotate more quickly, maybe it's the signal that we're getting toward the very, very end. You know, maybe how it is like if you're further up on this path over here, Earth is going more slowly. Maybe there is like fluctuation, but maybe when you get toward the very end, as far away from the presence of God as you can go, maybe things start to like really speed up because you're getting ready to make a reverse and to start going this way. You know, hopefully that makes sense. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are going to complain about what I just said, but I'm not saying that it's gospel truth. It's just an idea that I had. Another interesting thing that we've already covered is you might remember that Earth's tilt has changed recently. This is on space.com. Earth's tilt has changed by 31.5 inches or 80 centimeters between 1993 and 2010 because of the amount of groundwater humans have pumped from the planet's interior, because everything is always our fault. So we already covered this. It seems like there really are very interesting things going on with planet Earth, to say the least. Now, let's get into some of these disasters and things that are happening. So I got this email from Jody G. And she says, Jared, I don't know if you are including Columbia, South Carolina in your count of cities that have been affected by the Canadian wildfires, but Columbia, South Carolina, and many parts of South Carolina, especially the upstate area, but including the coast, have been hazy and had and continue to have warnings about the air quality. I appreciate your approach from the prophets and scriptures and the time you spend in research. Thank you. I'm learning a lot. Jody G. And I apologize. Jody is a unisex name, so it could be male or female. So, but thank you, Jody. Yeah, I didn't catch this. So we have yet another capital city that has been affected by the Canadian wildfire smoke. So let me pull up my capital cities spreadsheet. Here it is. Columbia, South Carolina. I don't know how I missed it. I thought I pretty much checked them all, but I guess I missed that one. Which brings us from 38 to 39 out of 50 U.S. state capitals that have experienced the Canadian wildfire smoke, which causes the sun to be darkened to some extent and also the moon to turn to blood, most likely. It probably varies from city to city and how much smoke, but more or less it has that effect. So thank you so much, Jody. You caught it. So it's even worse than we thought. Okay, now going to Utah, here's an email from Janet Carlson. We are having the strangest weather in Utah. First, we have a 7-year drought. Then the water year starts in October. This last winter, we got over 200% of normal snowfall. Then, just on the 1st of August, which was just 7 days ago at the time I'm recording this, we received in one day alone the average rainfall for both the months of July and August combined. And then it has been raining on and off since. Last night, Draper received 2.5 inches of rain. It has done damage to roads and flooded homes. And by the way, Draper is in the Salt Lake area. It also caused a mudslide. One thing about it is that there are only 3 ways to get to the Draper Temple, and 2 of them are closed because of the damage. Well, that's kind of interesting, because that makes you think about the 3 degrees of glory, and only one of them lead to the presence of God. It's interesting. I wonder if the Lord intended for it to be like that. The only option left would be to go into Utah County on the Alpine Highland exit and take another road up over the mountain. When Mount Timpanogos is closed, people from Utah County use this route to come to the temple, but for those of us in Salt Lake County, that would be a long drive. Luckily, the Draper Temple is closed until next Tuesday for cleaning. And then I got this email from Mary Rowan. Oh, by the way, I need to do better at saying my thank yous. Thank you, Brian Gross. Thank you, Jody G. or G. Thank you, Janet Carlson. And thank you, Mary Rowan. Mary Rowan did this. Monsoon season in Utah, major thunderstorms, wild weather hit across the state. And then she leaves a KSL article. I just wanted to read a few things from here. Salt Lake City. Major thunderstorms have caused massive downpours, flooding, and safety concerns across the state. Travelers reported deep standing water on I-15, which, by the way, that's probably the most important highway in Utah, really. I-15. It goes from all the way up here, the north part of the state. In fact, it goes up to, doesn't it go? Yeah, it goes from Helena. Well, it goes up beyond that, but it connects Helena, which is the capital of Montana. It goes down through southeastern Idaho, down through Salt Lake, through all 3 major metro areas, the Ogden, Salt Lake, and Provo metro areas. And then it goes on down through to Las Vegas, and then from there to Los Angeles. But for those that live in the valley, this is one of the main ways to get around is I-15. So that's a problem. Travelers reported deep standing water on I-15 and other roads, and multiple cars got stuck near the 14600. How long have I been gone from Utah? 14600 South, is that right? Exit in Draper. Roads looked like rivers as rain dumped down in Draper. By the way, Draper is in the southeast part of the valley, and she was talking about Alpine and Highland that's over here. So, in the Draper Temple, as you can see, is right here. Okay. So it seems though like the whole valley has been affected. Utah Highway Patrol Sergeant Cameron Rodden said the southbound on-ramp at 14600 South in Draper was closed Thursday night due to a mudslide partially covering the road. Highland Drive, Bangor Parkway. I've always known it as Bangor Highway. Bangor Parkway and Minuteman Drive are all unsafe to travel on, and the public is urged to avoid those areas for the rest of the night, Draper City said on social media. Draper officials also said to not drive through deep water on any other road. A KSL reader submitted a photo of a sinkhole that appeared on Bangor Highway and about 14200 South. So here's like a video. I'm not going to play the video. I feel more comfortable if I do it from like TikTok rather than here. So anyway, mostly like this part of the valley, it seems like, according to this, but I'm still going to put it on my capital cities spreadsheet. Let me go up to present. And I made a new little column right here, column D, Metro. So even though it didn't happen within the city limits of Salt Lake City itself, it happened in the metro area of Salt Lake City. Okay. So I added that as the most recent thing. Well, not the most recent thing, but one of my most recent entries. Okay. Next, We have Michelle Nair. She says, just wanted to share the other side of global warming, wet places getting wetter. Us in Rogaland, Norway. So she's from Norway. In fact, let's look up Rogaland, Norway. Let's go to the other side of the world. Okay, I guess it's a province. I don't know if there's a city named Rogaland too, but here's Norway. Here's this. Oslo is over here, more to the east. Okay. Near us in Rogaland, Norway, we've had a record-breaking rainy July. 504 millimeters, almost 20 inches, recorded in Geopolitical. It was so rainy for so many days that our family took a short trip down south to Kristiansand just to dry off a bit. Then August started brighter, but was turned soaking wet again as Storm Hans has passed over. In this storm right here, by the way, um, this is like the recent one that seems to have caused a lot of problems, not just for Norway, but all the Scandinavian countries. She continues, I share this because of you mentioning the volcanic explosion blasting loads more water into the air and its impacts on temporary global warming. So, first-hand account of cold and wet versus hot and dry. Regards, Michelle. And then she sent another email that contains a link for a story that we're going to look at from The Guardian. She says, Hi, Jared. The attached photo is a view from our living room window. It does not capture the sound of rain pelting the house or the wind. We are hundreds of miles away from the worst affected areas, and it is still pretty awful outside here. Well, thank goodness for that. I'm glad that you're safe, Michelle, you and your family. Just wanted to share some local global news because it is all relevant. We are all members of Zion in our stakes around the world. Regards, Michelle. And then here's the picture. So you can tell that it's windy, and like usual, when you film things or take pictures, usually it doesn't do it justice. I've been frustrated a number of times as I've tried to capture fog or smoke or something like that, but I can still imagine. So thank you, Michelle. Okay, so The Guardian. Storm Hans causes havoc in Norway with heaviest rain in 25 years forecast. Here you can see some houses that are being flooded. Some like broken down, you know, well, just like timber, tree trunks, stuff like that. Looks like a mudslide. Oh yeah, it says a landslide. Destroyed houses in Valdres, Nord Ardal, near Bagin. And then here's another picture. You can like see it. It's just like a highway coming out of the mountain and hitting all these houses. Okay, so let's read a little bit from here. A powerful storm has brought destruction to Norway, causing landslides and leaving an entire town stranded, as meteorologists warned of the strongest rainfall in a quarter of a century. The storm, named Storm Hans, has killed 2 people, ripped off roofs, and caused widespread disruption across northern Europe in a summer that started with wildfires across much of the region. The Norwegian Meteorological Institute issued a red danger warning, the highest level of risk, on Tuesday for extremely heavy rainfall across parts of southern Norway. Quote, in many places, the event will be among the strongest in the last 25 years, it warned. Here's that picture again, just a little bit bigger. And that is a gorgeous place to live. It's unfortunate that this happened, but that is just stunning. Strong winds and rain continued across the region, also causing disruption, canceling ferries, delaying flights, uprooting trees, flooding streets, and also causing outages across Denmark, Estonia, Finland, Latvia, Lithuania, and Sweden. In Oslo, the capital city, people were urged to work from home and avoid unnecessary journeys. Now, I couldn't find any stories that spoke about Oslo specifically, but from the context of this story and also this article from aviation24.be, it says no trains to Oslo airport due to flooded tracks, but air traffic almost normal. So I'm just going to say in some kind of way, Oslo seems to have been affected, and so I'm adding them. Oh no, I haven't added it yet. Ah, well, I'm going to add it. I'm going to add Oslo to here after this video. But as you can see, we're going to be going on to Slovenia. So got this email from Marcy Molnar or Molnar, and it has to do with Slovenia. Associated Press. Slovenia has suffered its worst ever floods. Damage could top 500 million euros, its leaders say. This is starting to become a very familiar scene. Densely populated areas that have insane flooding taking place. You guys, things are not normal. This is not normal. Certainly, things like this happen from time to time across the world, all continents, I'm sure. But with this frequency and intensity, I feel pretty confident, not being an expert, saying that this is not normal. Okay. So, the capital city of Slovenia, Ljubljana, Slovenia. Slovenia has faced the worst ever natural disaster in its history. Prime Minister Robert Golob, it's almost like Kolob, said Saturday, after devastating floods caused damage estimated at €500 million. Devastating floods on Thursday and Friday killed 3 people and destroyed roads, bridges, and houses in the small alpine country. 2/3 of the territory had been affected. Oh my gosh, it's another 2/3. It's just like Draper. Remember, in Draper, there was only the one road that was left open that you could use to get to the temple, and the 2 other main ones were, closed, blocked. Well, here in Slovenia, 2/3 of the territory had been affected, whereas I guess 1/3 had not. Holy cow! I did not notice that the first time I went through this. The floods were, quote unquote, the biggest natural disaster. Okay, so like out of all natural disasters, not just flooding, the biggest natural disaster in Slovenia's history, Golob said after a meeting of the country's National Security Council on Saturday. Quote, luckily last night was easier than the one before, end quote. After 3 weather-related deaths were reported on Friday, Slovenian media said on Saturday that 1 more person was found dead in the capital of Ljubljana. Police are yet to confirm the report. Oh my gosh. Okay, and that brings us to the end of this video. I don't even, everything is so crazy. Everything is so crazy right now. This is starting to become just like regular at this point. And it's almost like the only way, for me at least, to really get a good sense of what's going on is to put it on a tracker like this. This is only capital cities. It doesn't include major cities that are not capitals. Again, for example, New York City is not a capital city. Philadelphia is not a capital city. Places like that. My goodness. And you guys, this tracker that I have for capital cities, it begins, my first entry is on the 17th of May. And look at all the capital cities that have experienced something. Here, let me take the highlight off of that, change it to gray for Columbia, South Carolina. This is a lot. This is a lot of cities that have experienced a lot of different things. Everything from wildfire smoke to derechos, which is like an inland hurricane, tornadoes, very severe thunderstorm in Kansas City, and well, sorry, not it affected Kansas City, but being that this is the capital, uh, the capital city tracker, Topeka, Kansas, severe thunderstorm knocked out a lot of power for a lot of homes. Record-breaking temperatures, wildfires around Athens, Greece, crazy, insane flooding in Beijing, and also in Moscow, Russia, Croatia, Serbia, Nova Scotia, like Halifax, Nova Scotia. Salt Lake City has been on here a number of times, both with flooding and with record temperatures, and with the wildfire smoke. And in fact, they were one of the first ones to get hit by the Canadian wildfire smoke. Utah was. So, oh my gosh. Sorry to confuse everybody with this, but I just really feel like there's something weird when it comes to time. I think that time does not work how we think at all. Um, when people talk about, life being so short, like how can anyone be tested in a fair way with, the, 80 years that we have, 70, 80, for some people much younger, how can it be fair with so little time? It may not have to do so much with time. It may have to do more with just simply who we are and choices that we make. I know that gets pretty deep, but wouldn't it just be interesting imagining our sun actually coming backwards into? Have you seen the movie Tenet? Let's see, Tenet, 2020 film. It's PG-13. Okay. This is a movie. It is a mind-bending movie, which is the way I like my movies, and it has to do with not so much time travel as by the way, spoilers. Okay, well, potential spoilers. Nothing really big, but basically, it's a movie about um, a war going on between the future and the present, and I guess the past too. I guess you could include the past, where there's this technology that was developed that allows you to go into this chamber, and then it reverses the way that the movie the verbiage that the movie uses is entropy. It like reverses your entropy. So you go into this chamber, and then suddenly it's like you're viewing things in reverse. Everybody else looks like they're walking backwards. Birds are flying backwards. Cars are driving backwards. Everything is going in reverse except for you. And then the people that have not gone through the chamber, it looks like you are like you are going in reverse. Uh, and I don't know how they did it, but they have at least like one fight scene in here where this guy. Okay, again, spoiler alert. If you haven't seen this, don't watch past this point if you want to be surprised. But there's a point where he fights himself. Like he doesn't realize it's himself. Uh, the first version of him is like earlier in the movie, and he's going forward in time, but he encounters himself going backwards in time, and he's wearing like a mask and stuff. So that's how he doesn't recognize himself. But they somehow choreographed like a fight scene between the two of them that like actually makes sense. It's a really good movie. I love Christopher Nolan. I don't like all of his movies, but his heart and his soul is in his movies, and he puts out original things like it seems like nobody else is able to do anymore these days. So so I don't know. And again, it's an interesting idea. I know some of you don't like that I watched Loki on Disney Plus. But if you like the Avenger, like the what's it called, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the MCU, this is only on Disney Plus. But this has to do with the idea of what they call a sacred timeline, where what happens is there's this character that's again spoilers. There's this character that is over this timeline, and he prunes these like timelines that start to branch off at certain times, and he just maintains this one timeline. But it goes on forever. The timeline goes on forever, and what he does is he takes these Loki characters that pop up because they usually cause problems with the timeline, and so he quote unquote prunes them and sends them to the very end of the timeline. And so they're essentially stuck in time. They can't go back. They're just continually going forward into eternity, essentially like in a time prison, so to speak. And I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if that's exactly what's going on. We return back to the presence of the Father. We enter the same dimension, time, time being before us, just like it is for him. Whereas Satan and his followers just forever go this direction, forever, and get further and further away as they travel down the flow of time. Mind-bending. Okay, well that's going to be it. That's going to be it for this one. So if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it, leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.